Hello and welcome to The Spirit Safe. My name's Rob. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Now, since we started the channel a couple of years ago now, we have had whiskies from Scotland, Ireland, America and Japan. But I have not had a Canadian whiskey on the channel until now. It's difficult to choose what you're going to do when you do a different country for the first time. But I decided to go with something that's completely mass market. It's basically entry level, and it's probably one of the most popular Canadian whiskies in Canada and the US. It is the Crown Royal, the standard fare. Before I get into this, I want to say absolutely, I know that this is not the best Canadian whiskey in the world. It might not even be all that representative in terms of the various styles that they have. But it is a popular choice, so I thought and accessible and cheap, so I thought I would start with this. Talking of cheap, this 200 ml bottle, which is lovely plastic, this was $9.99 Canadian. A standard 750 cl bottle is $23.50 in BC. And if you have a mullet and are getting married, you can buy a 3-litre bottle for your wedding for $122. So it's priced very, very attractively. Alcohol is expensive in this province. Imported alcohol is very expensive, so the budget conscious tend to stick with the Canadian whiskies. So this is the first Canadian whiskey we've had on the channel. It's made in Gimli, Manitoba, a small town in the kind of breadbasket of Canada, in the prairie provinces where they grow all the cereals for this. It's an enormous operation. They've got 45 or so warehouses. They fill 1,000 casks a day. It is gargantuan in its scale. This is not a little whitewashed building of a distillery. It's not Edredour. They haven't got a little tea shop and a souvenir shop. It is an industrial scale production. This is a mass market product. It is the Canadian Jack Daniels, basically. And how do people drink it? They drink it in tumblers with ice. They mix it with Coke or with ginger. People will ask for a Crown and Coke rather than a Jack and Coke. It is the Canadian Jack Daniels. So, what's it like in a little Glencairn glass? Let's see. Very, very definitely an alcohol note there. Kind of a grain spirit. Vodka kind of note to it. Neutral spirit. Hint of spice, but you can tell that it's going to be sweet, but it's also slightly young and brash as well. It's not a 50-year-old whiskey. And then some more sweet notes, some corn type notes coming through. Banana and toffee. Definitely caramel. One of those caramel waffles that Dutch people have with their coffee. Toffee notes all the way through this. Not getting an awful lot, I have to say. Just light, sweet, fairly young. Hint of oak starting to develop, but otherwise it just tastes like fairly neutral alcohol, sweetness, like it's not going to set your world alight. A bit more oak and peary on the nose. Let's see what we have on the palate. I feel like I should be mixing this with ginger. Sweet, sort of brown sugar notes. Toffee, kind of toasted marshmallow. Rice pudding kind of note to it as well. Slight non on the finish. Let's have another sip and I'll tell you about the finish. Just more caramel and toffee, really. Sweet, very light spice, with a cinnamon note to it. Yes, it's sweet, and it does fade to a kind of flinty mineral note as well. I've been spoilt with single malt Scotch for so many years. The fact is, people are going into the store, they're walking straight past the Scotch, and they're picking up big bottles of Crown Royal. Partly because of the marketing behind it, partly because of the economics of it. I understand why people buy it. It's not bad. It's not a bad whiskey. It's just not all that interesting for me, and I like malted barley. So I probably wouldn't go out and buy the big 3-litre bottle of this. I can see why people buy it for mixing. I would happily buy it for mixing if I drank mixed drinks. But I don't. I drink my my whiskies in the Glencairn glass, and I spend a bit of time with them. So this isn't for me. I'm interested to try other Canadian whiskies, particularly the Northern Harvest Rye from Crown Royal, which won Whisky of the Year from Jim Murray a few years ago. Be interested to try that, and that's not all that much more expensive. So that might be my next Canadian whiskey pick. Anyway, I will enjoy what's here, probably without ginger. But thanks very much for tuning in, and we'll meet again soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.